little intro video, and then I'll introduce the podcast. We're live. What's up, guys? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Deck Talk Podcast. And well, we got a surprise for y'all. We got actually not just one, but we've got two professional anglers coming on the podcast. And reason why we got them on is well, you have to hold on and find out. But it is a very interesting reason why we have them on, and we're going to get to talk to them about what we love and talk about some fishing and talk about what they like to do in their off time. But guys, if you don't know, I'm Colin Burnett.
That's right, Colin, and I'm Norman Lee, and that's right, Colin. We have two great hammers on tonight from the Bass Pro Tour. But you know what? As always, first we got to take care of a little bit of business. First, we got to talk about our sponsor for tonight's episode. This episode is brought to you by Firefly Outdoor and Marine, the #1 navigational lights on the water. What separates Firefly from all the rest? First, we have to talk about their globe, a high-quality, innovative, infrared plastic exclusive to Firefly, reducing glare by over 95%, cutting down eye blindness that you receive with other typical LED lights. Lights giving you the perception as if you are fishing under a full moon. They're offered in a camo diamond and a flake series, as well as a junior diamond series for smaller applications. Also, check out their all-new shore sucker box, making nighttime fishing, bank fishing more enjoyable. Plus, their new TEP series and Mizu foul weather bibs and jackets. Be seen with Firefly Outdoor and Marine. Make sure to go to their website at www.fireflymarine.com. Don't forget, use our discount code DECKTALK10 at checkout for your instant savings. Again, that is fireflymarine.com. Don't forget, make sure to use our discount code DECKTALK10. Man, I tell you what, Colin, that's right. And you said it right, man. We have two guys on tonight, and let's just get started introducing these guys. You know, this is a special show we have lined up for you tonight. We have not one, but two anglers from the ranks of Major League Fishing Bass Pro Tour joining us tonight. First, he qualified for the FLW Tour in 2018, where he made an immediate impact as one of the steadiest anglers on the pro circuit. In his young career, he already has one win, along with 19 times, finishing in the top 20s with 13 top 10s. And then next, he hit the ground running during his first season on the pro circuit in 2017. In 2023, he teamed up with two other MLF hammers to claim victory in the first Team Series Championship. So far in his stellar career, he has a Red Crest appearance with 40 top 20s and 18 top 10s. October 24th through the 29th, they are teaming up in the General Tires Team Series in hopes of claiming victory and hoisting the coveted Patriot Cup. Jacob Walls and Dylan Hayes. What's going on, man?
What's up, guys?
What's going on, brothers?
What's going on?
That was a pretty extravagant intro there, man.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And I made
he
it all
does
the way
pretty
through.
well on those.
Yeah, that was good. You need to get you on like with a mic somewhere on the stage doing like. I feel like I was in like WWE. Like I feel like you were announcing me as I was coming out. I'm like,
Let's get ready to rumble.
Rumble. That's it.
There you
So,
go.
so what? Y'all don't know what lakes or anything like that y'all are going to be, or the lake that y'all are going to be on, because what they kind of hold off until you get there, correct?
yeah, they don't tell us anything as far as what we're doing except the location, like the city. You know, we get a city that we get to route to, so we actually know what part of the country we're going to. But besides that, there's no information that we can, get or be provided by anybody.
Now, is all the competitors staying at the same hotel? Do they basically give you the location you're going to be staying at, so you all are together there?
I think it's up to you if you want to stay there, but
Okay.
they do give us a hotel to book at. So we've got a location that probably 75-80%, maybe more guys will probably end up staying at that,
Right,
I would
right.
think.
You can't even look at a map. I mean, we have the town right now, but you can't even look at Google Earth and just try to guess what lakes you're going to. You
Like,
just
yeah,
Yeah,
show up to the town.
yeah.
yeah. So,
That's crazy.
so how do they decide that who's going to be on a team together? Is it because what Adrian Avena and Mark Daniels Jr. was a teammates here not too long ago.
And Wheeler
Uh,
and DC was teammates also, and they're friends. Does one of you qualify and the other pick his teammate, or how does the teams come about?
Go ahead, Jacob.
Yeah,
It's
so
pretty extravagant.
yeah, it's pretty. It's I don't know. It's kind of weird, but they took guys from the points. So they there were two different sections of guys. It was like if you were in the top, what was it like? How many guys ended up choosing?
Like
26,
26 or something. That's what I think. Yeah.
something like that, I think. And then so if you were allowed to choose inside that top 26. So like let's say Wheeler was ranked one, which probably is where he was. I think the last one, Drew Gill, was ranked one ahead of him. But the first one, I think Wheeler was one, and he picked Connell, who I believe was either second or third.
Two. Yeah.
Two, I think. Yeah, so one and two. So what that did is it bumped down. So then 27th got to choose as quote unquote captain,
Right,
and then so like instead of in the past year when I did it, I don't know how they did it before then, but I know last year when they did it, they had us choose outside of that top group of guys. But this year they allowed
right,
us to choose in there, depending on how many guys got choose throughout that top group of captains. Depending on how far down it got bumped for guys to choose. So like
right.
you could technically have been 33rd place if and if it got if they chose down that far for captains, then you could technically be a captain. And
Yeah.
so there were a
So,
number of guys that didn't get chosen in this deal, and based on standings and the points. And
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough
man,
for the first one to be the captain, and then for this one I was down there a little further, and Dylan was actually the guy right behind me, and he was going to get in to be a captain right behind me, but I ended up choosing Dylan, so it just kind of allowed somebody else below him even to choose as a captain.
Yeah.
So
Now,
they also split the season up. So the first the
yeah, I meant
first
to say that. Go ahead.
the first four events, the people AOY 1 through 26 got to be captains, and then the last three events was like a whole nother qualifying thing. You could have really sucked in the first four events,
Yeah,
but if you had a strong ending to your season, they just took the points from there, and it was 1 through 26 from the last three events, and nothing. It didn't matter how you did in the first four events.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
right.
Now, have you guys fished together on the same boat before as a team, or is this your first time fishing together?
I don't think
I
we've
don't
ever
think we've
fished
done it
together.
both together.
No, we've never fished together,
Yeah.
but we've stayed together before. I mean, been around each other a fair amount in the past 5-6 years to the point where we kind of know how each other are. At least our personalities. So we should obviously. I didn't want to pick somebody that. I mean, we've seen it. Two of these events already now with two guys on each boat.
Yeah.
There's been a few teams that kind of have butted heads, and
Yeah.
that's like the main thing you don't want to do on a boat. I mean,
Nah,
if you don't vibe with somebody, it's really hard to make good decisions on the water. And
Yeah.
I felt like Dylan was somebody I could, at the very least, I don't really know how we'll fish together, but I feel like we'll at least get along on the
Yeah.
water, which is a big deal.
Aren't,
right.
aren't you left-handed?
Yeah, I run left-handed
I,
reel.
I'm really pumped about you. Do you cast left-handed a lot?
Yeah, I cast with my right hand, but I mean, you cast off this side.
Either way, I guess. I thought you were left-handed. I was like, man, he'll be casting one way. I'll be casting one way. That would work good. I used to have an old
Yeah,
team partner. He was left-handed. And I loved it. But
right.
it's I think I'm excited. I think we'll be good. Like I said, we've been buddies for a while, and just hungry, man, hungry.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah.
are y'all's like how y'all fish? Is like Jacob is your stronghold of like what you like to do? Does it compare to what like Dylan what you like to do, or is it two different things to where you kind of want to mesh maybe deep water, shallow water, or whatever? Um,
I'll,
do y'all both like to fish similar, or are y'all on the total opposite spectrum on it?
I'll take this. I think, man, that's what I tell people all the time. Like, I don't care if they bought a hula popper. Like, I'm gonna throw a hula popper. Like
Right.
at this level, you gotta be able to be well versed doing anything. And Jake was very comfortable doing anything. I'm very comfortable. I mean, I'm just as comfortable flipping a mat as I am catching a smallmouth 40 foot deep. Like it doesn't matter. And so we just
Right.
got to figure out what's going on then, and ultimately, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
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 And
No, I
is
mean, oh,
go ahead, Jacob.
I was just gonna add to that. I was just gonna say, yeah, I mean, Dylan and I both we were talking about it. I don't know if we got it on the actual. I think we were talking on it before we started, but Dylan and I have been competing against each other for 6 years. Dylan's been doing this for 8. I've been doing it for 6. I'm going on 7. Dylan's going on 9. But um, yeah, when Dylan and I got started in this industry, it was really when things started to get away from like you've seen guys like Denny Brower who are known for flipping a jig. You started to get
Right.
away from that kind of in our time frame, and you started to get into the more of the guys that are just like really, really well versed. You've
Yeah.
got so many guys in our year class, and I mean, still, I mean, obviously to this day you have to be like that. But I mean, I like Dylan said, we can pick up whatever, all kinds of crap behind me here, but I mean, that's how my boat is too. I carry a bunch of stuff. And I could throw anything, like he said. I don't care what they'll bite. I just want to reel them in. I don't. It doesn't matter if
Yeah.
it's on
Yeah.
5 pound line or 65 pound line.
Yeah.
As long as they tell you what they want to hit, then you're going to be on it. Huh?
We'll figure out what they want to bite. I
Yeah.
guarantee you
Yeah.
that.
Now,
Hmm.
Yeah.
once you guys get to the area where you're going, when do they disclose each day the body of water? Is it that morning? So you really don't know what lake you're going to be on in the area until like the morning of, right?
They don't know till they pull up to the ramp. They
I
Oh,
don't even
okay.
tell you on the way.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I got you. So
And then
okay,
they hand them a map and say, "This is the area that you have."
yeah,
Am
Yeah,
I right?
so we don't even ride. We don't even drive our truck. We pretty much show up to the hotel is where we'll show up to. I'm assuming in the morning they'll have like a boatyard area, and they'll kind of since it's only 4 boats each day, and then the knockout rounds are 3 boats. It's not very many boats to kind of maneuver around. They get them ready. We show up. We hop in the rig in the morning, and our official drives us there. Our cameraman's in the back. One of us is going to sit in the back. One of us is going to sit in the front. And we just go, and then we show up, like Dylan said, and we don't know where the heck we are. Obviously, if we've been there, we're going to be able to kind of. I mean, they don't blindfold us, so it's
Right.
not like we're in the back, like facing backwards, blindfolded. We can at least look around. So if we've been to the area, we're going to kind of get an idea. But I've never been to that part of Texas, early Texas, so I'll have no idea. But maybe Dylan will have some sort of
No,
idea.
same,
Yeah,
same. It's like I think it's a 7 hour drive for me. All I did was type it in. We can't even look at it on Google Earth or
yeah,
anything, but I just typed it in to see where it was, and it looked like it was the farthest west in Texas I've ever been. I've been to the Oklahoma Panhandle before deer hunting, but other than that, I've never even been that far west. So I'm really pumped to see something new. It will 100% be something new to me.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How long of a ride around they
And
going to give you in the morning?
30 minutes, I believe, is all
Yeah,
they give us.
yeah,
30.
yeah. So that
Yeah,
kind of, for as far as any offshore bite, that actually not being able to practice on the body of water like you guys do in a normal regular season event, just having a 30-minute ride around on a brand new body of water, that's kind of gonna limit you really and what you really are going to want to do as well. Because I mean, you're not going to be able to get out there and just look for groups of fish in 30 minutes. You're just going to have to go on the fly. I'm assuming, right, guys?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I
30.
mean,
Go ahead, Dylan.
I was just going to say, yeah, you just have to fill it out and, based off conditions and time of
Yeah,
year, just like you would anything else, just, other than 2 or 3 days to break it down, you just you'll be breaking it down on the fly.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Right.
but the good thing about in the fall, I mean, fish do a lot of different things,
Yeah,
and so I don't know. I'm looking forward to
yeah.
getting after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
think it
go
that
ahead.
you don't really see tournament wise, especially big series tournaments in the fall, especially in Texas. So I think this is going to open a lot of doors and avenues, especially to be able to kind of do what they're wanting to do of getting people more views and stuff and people's eyes watching what y'all are doing. And then to have it as a team event, I really think that they kind of picked a pretty good area of Texas. And if I remember correct, I mean, I ain't gonna say I can't say nothing, but I used to drive over the road for 2.5 years, and but that's if I remember correctly. I think I know a couple of them. There's quite a few lakes around that area, so
Listen,
you really even
anything
if
in
you looked
Texas.
at it, right? If you look at it, it's just going to be like throwing darts at a place and being like, well, it could be there, it could be that. I mean, there is some good lakes if I remember correctly that there's around that area.
In that area.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I'm pumped about being able to fish that time of year. Like I've always fished team events. I mean, man, literally ever since I was like 15 years old. And we
Right,
always have our championships in the fall. And I feel like I feel like I'm a strong fall angler, like I just always have. But we never get to fish in the fall. And
Mhm.
so I'm pumped about doing that. And Jacob fishes a lot of night tournaments, a lot of team stuff as well,
Yeah,
more than I do now. I don't do it hardly any anymore.
yeah,
But that's what I mean. I'm really pumped to be able to go do a team event and bounce ideas off each other and learn from each other and go somewhere
Yeah.
new and fish a different time of year. And it's gonna be cool.
yeah,
Now, kind of talking about like the fall, like what you were saying, Dylan, about fishing tournaments in the fall. Um, if you had if the BPT said, "All right, guys, we're wanting to talk to y'all about the scheduling, and would y'all want more tournaments spread out through the year to even to where?" Because a lot of times, like at the beginning of the season, it's all about bedding fish and stuff like that. Um, would you like to have the tournament scheduled to where it kind of goes from bedding from spring all the way till maybe late fall?
And it don't matter to me. I don't. You just tell me when and where to
Where
be.
to
I,
go?
I personally, I mean, part of me loves having the off season, uh, but I wouldn't be against fishing. A few more events as well.
Right.
I know there's other anglers that have asked for that because I mean there is a big. You really, when you really look at it, I mean, you go from August to February, you don't have any tournaments,
yeah,
Right.
and um, it's a nice break. I love to deer hunt and do other things, but it's just I don't really have a preference on what the fish are doing. I mean, at this point in time, maybe if you asked me that when I was a rookie, I would probably tell you something different. But now,
Right.
just tell me where I got to go and when it starts.
Right.
And
You'll be there.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really think it's necessary to have a longer season. I mean, ultimately, the fall is the. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the best time of the year. I mean, it's probably the worst time of the year to bass fish.
worst, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hmm.
probably the worst time of the year throughout the entire country to go try to catch bass. So, as far as
Yeah.
like television side of things like that goes, I don't really know if you're really missing much there. I mean, you're getting the
Right.
best of the fishing in the spring and in the summer and in the pre-spawn. So as far as that goes, capturing the fishing goes, I feel like we kind of hit it on the head as far as the best times of the year. But
Right.
and man, I mean, also like the part of it that people from the outside looking in, your spectators, your fans, your consumers of the industry, they don't really realize that there's so much that goes into our off season that like once our season's over, we've got to, maybe you don't. I don't sell my boat every single year, but every other year I sell my boat. A lot of guys sell them every single year. Then you got to prepare for a new one. which is a ridiculous amount of work. Um, there's so much that goes into a new boat. It's not like we just order a boat with everything on it and then boom, it shows
Right.
up and we put it on the truck and boom, we're ready to go. We're on the road catching bass. It's like there's trial and error. There's rigging and then figuring out why something's leaking on a brand new boat. You're like, what?
Right.
Water in here? It's always something. So like our
Always.
Yeah.
season, just with the boat, that's one thing, and then there's the wrap. That's a whole nother thing. Jerseys,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother thing. When you do all this stuff and you put it all together, you're like, holy cow, this takes my off season, and yeah, I got a job now. Like I got stuff
Yeah.
to do. So
Yeah.
um, I think it's necessary, really, or else you would. For me, I would feel like I would be kind of pressed for time and probably stress out a little bit more than I need to if it was tighter than it is. And
Yeah.
I
Right.
think these team series are cool because they kind of throw a little deal in there where you're like, hey, you get to go out and go compete, and you don't even have to bring your own boat. For Dylan
Yeah.
and I,
Yeah.
we get to show up. They bring the boat. It's rigged. It's ready. I just unwrapped my rig the last couple days. I'm getting ready to sell mine, and I don't have to think about driving it 13 and a half hours to go fish a tournament.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of cool. I think this is definitely extending our season more than it normally would have been. But all in all, I like our off season for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, Jacob, you kind of really hit it on the head. Because the anglers and stuff, we're fortunate enough to, I mean, we get to talk to y'all and the guys at Bassmasters and stuff like that. And you have a off season that you're not tournament fishing is pretty much what it is. But then we've talked to so many people. It's like, well, I gotta contact this sponsor. I gotta contact that sponsor. I gotta try to see about getting another sponsor or whatever. And last year we had Patrick Walters on, and he said that he didn't know if he was going to have his boat back from being wrapped before the first tournament. And he was like, it's just how much stress that he was going through trying to make sure that his boat was ready and got out to where he was supposed to be. And so, and people don't realize also, as soon as January turns around, y'all got all the expos and stuff that y'all got to go show up at. And so, I mean, y'all's wheels keep turning when y'all, even on the off seasons.
Yeah, the business end of it goes all year round, and people don't realize that. Fish is a business for you guys. And the business end of it goes all year. As far as what kind of going back to what Jacob was saying about, you have your boat stuff to deal with and sponsor obligations, and then you got your shows. So it's really the business end of it's all year round. I mean, you might only fish your tournaments might only go 6 months out of the year, 7 months, but it's 12 months a year that you guys are having to work at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, um, how, this is a question for both of y'all. Like, how did y'all get into bass fishing, and how did y'all realize, or when did you realize that you wanted to make this as a career?
Go ahead, Dylan.
I mean, it's kind of funny. My story is funny because nobody in my family fished, like nobody. And I had a buddy of mine. He took me to a pond. We caught a bunch of catfish one time, and I was like, I don't know, like 12 years old. And then the same guy and his dad took me bass fishing one time when they were schooling. We caught like 100, and I just really liked it. And I've always been very competitive. I always play a lot of sports, and I just I like the competition side of it. And one of my old basketball coaches, he used to carry me to 9 tournaments, and I was, all through high school. And I've anytime anybody ever asked me in high school what I wanted to do, when I grew up, that's what I've said: a professional bass fisherman. Every report I've ever wrote, that's what I've always said. And but you got to be smart with it. I mean, this crap ain't cheap. You can't just dive into it.
Yeah.
And me, like I moved to Central. I grew up in Southern Arkansas, and I moved to Central Arkansas. I went to college and got around all the big highland lakes like Lake Washita, Greers Ferry, and I grew up in a super like swampy area. Like when I went fishing, it was all solid cypress trees and paths and
Right.
grass. And I mean, I remember the first time I saw Lake Washita, and like I was a co-anchor in a BFL, and we got to our first spot, and like we come off pad, and it's like 80 foot deep. And I'm like, I've never been more shocked and just shell shocked in my whole life. And I don't know, but it really made me a well-rounded angler, because I'm comfortable doing whatever now. But I just kept fishing, tournaments, and started jumping to some team tournaments and having some success, and then, finally, get a big break with the right kind of sponsor. And at that time, I had then graduated and college, and I had a really good full-time job, but I just got a really good opportunity, and I just decided to take a chance on it. And funny story, I finished 137th out of 145 in my first tournament, and it makes you really question life decisions when you
Right.
do that. But I thought I was going to win that thing going into it. I mean, I had an awesome practice. Just things change, and I didn't adjust, and it was a big learning lesson for me. And the next one was Lake Travis, and I finished like third at Lake Travis, won like 25 or 30 grand, and it kind of got me going. Get your confidence going, and that's really my little quick story in a nutshell, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't. I wish I got lucky and made a big check in my second one, but no. I mean, my story's similar as far as like getting into it from a young age and kind of having a dream of wanting to do it from a young age and pursuing that um, pretty much endlessly at all costs. Like that's all I've focused on since I can remember. But yeah, I just got into it watching it on TV, watching like Bill Dance, Roland Martin, some tournament stuff. But really, what got me intrigued in bass fishing in general was watching those guys. Not really tournament stuff, more just like the art of like catching bass. Luring them in and catching them
Yeah.
on top water or whatever it was, crankbait or any of that stuff. But yeah, originally grew up on the West Coast, so it's kind of a weird thing to pursue living in Oregon. Um, but I just worked really, really hard. Every chance that I got to go fishing, I did, and joined some local clubs there, and ended up fishing from like junior level all the way to high school, college. Out of college, fished the West Coast Toyota Series. Well, I guess it was the Costa Series
Costa Series.
when I
Yeah.
fished it. But my first year out over there, they changed it around, or they did change it around like a whole bunch. It was 5 or 8 or 10, and I think when I qualified, I think it was like top 10 guys in points or something qualified for the tour. And so just kind of climbed the ranks coming from the West Coast and just
Yeah.
pursued a dream of mine. But I mean, there's obviously, I'm trying to speed up the story, but just moved out here once I qualified and bought a boat, did it all with like little to no time, and didn't know what I was getting into. I fished out in the, outside of the West Coast, maybe a handful of times, had never really traveled to fish, any of the locations we were going to, and started out, having some decent success. I think I ended up in an okay position my first year in the points. I think I was in like the top third of the field or something like that. And just kind of just like I did my career to begin with, just kind of climb the ranks, just still doing that, just kind of keep climbing the ranks. And just my biggest thing is, I want to continue to be here. I don't want to be a guy that goes out, fishes a year, and then the next year you're like, where did he go?
Where to go?
I don't see him on the list anymore. He's gone, and I've seen that a lot since I started. And my biggest thing has always been maintaining, and while we were chatting before we went live, you were talking about who was it that you're saying? John Cox was telling you
Yeah.
on the run that
Yeah.
he just tries to go cut a check in every event. I mean, that's that's ultimately the best way that you're going to be able to continue to do this for year after year after year is to try to cut a check in every event. So it's kind of what I've, my biggest
Yeah,
focus is, cutting checks. That's how I can continue to be out here competing. So it's kind of a rundown of where I've came
yeah.
from, sort of my mindset, where
Yeah.
I'm at, and what I'm doing now. But
So how hard is it to be able to stay that consistent? Um, I mean, because just like what you're saying, Jacob, is you see some anglers come out here and I mean, and they knock the top off, and then 2 years later, you're like, where are they at? And you're not even fishing anymore. So how hard is it? And you said that it's you pretty much want that's your focus is to be able to stay consistent enough to be able to put you into situations. Um, so is it is that an easy step for you to do, or is that more of like a mental game for you to be able to stay that consistent?
yeah, I mean, bass fishing is all mental. I mean, at the level that we compete at, like, it's not who can skip a jig better. Sure, like Andy Morgan might be better at it than me, but I mean, when it comes down to it, I'm just as good as 90% of the other guys that we compete against, like probably 70 out of the 80 guys this year. I feel like I could, pick up a jig and put it under a dock in the same place they can, so it's
Right,
not really a skill thing, it's more, it comes down to your confidence. It comes down to you, sort of like your mentality on things. And obviously you want to set your goal higher than where you want to achieve. If my goal is to cut a check in every event, I want to, my goal in to start the year, I'm not going out there winning every event, and that's never been, it hasn't for since I've been doing it. But I've always been that guy. I just go out there and say, hey, I'm going to make a top 10, or I'm going to move on to the next round. I'm going to make the knockout round, or you know, kind of
yeah,
set your goals, for whatever makes sense to you. But
Yeah.
that's kind of how I've always done it. Just
Yeah.
said, hey, I'm going to make
right,
the knockout round, and if I fall short and cut a check, then I'm not kicking myself. I'm still pretty happy with that. So
Yeah.
right. Now,
Sorry,
are y'all? Oh, you're
I got
good,
a
brother.
phone call.
Yeah, you're good.
uh, are y'all looking
Is it
forward
my turn to
to?
answer the question?
Yeah, if you want to, go ahead, brother. You there, Dylan?
Think I might have froze again.
he saw a
I think
ghost.
everybody's froze but me and you. Dang, my mama called me. I had to ignore it.
Oh man,
Oh,
Oh man.
Tell her we're sorry.
Yeah, right.
gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah,
Dang, that messed everybody up.
You're good, man. But yeah, if you want to go ahead and answer that question that Jacob just battled through.
Yeah. Well, as far as being consistent on tour, um, to me, and especially in the beginning, that was the hardest thing. And I think that's one of the hardest things uh, for anyone. That's why you see people get on tour and not stay long. Uh, if you look at it, this sport has so many different elements. Like basketball, NBA. You're in an inside gym and the rim's the same, all the lines are the same. It's all the same.
yeah,
But that's just one example. But us, we have wind and weather and sun and rain and cold and hot and so many different elements, and that right there was makes it extra hard to stay
yeah.
consistent.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the people who
we tell
can are the ones that
right,
stay. For the
right,
course of the year, those are the ones that make the championships and qualify for heavy hitters. And uh, the ones that come back year after year after year. But he's right. It's for the mental side of it is there. I mean, because the skill levels are all very similar at this level. Skill might keep you in the high end locally, but at this level, it's all very similar. And you mentally,
yeah,
you have to uh, just know what you're up against every tournament, whether or not, I mean, however the bite is or the weather is, and just know that you have to go and work harder than them and stay
Yeah.
yeah.
focused the whole time.
Yeah.
So, are are y'all? looking forward to Red Crest being on Gunnersville.
No, I, I'm I'm so bummed that it's on Gunnersville. Like, really wish they would have put it on any other lake in the country. No, I'm I'm freaking jacked, man. I mean, when I started the season this year, I was like, my number one goal, above everything else, is to make Red Crest, just because it's. I mean, I'm 15-20 minutes from the ramp that we're going to be putting in at, so it's, I'm
So
stoked.
you're not too far from us, then.
No, I'm just in between Gunnersville and Huntsville on
Okay.
431.
Yeah, right.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
because
no, I
where
can't
or
wait.
where I live is I'm 25 minutes from Chickamauga, 20 minutes from Nickajack, and about 45 minutes from Gunnersville.
Oh yeah, you're super close, super
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
but I think that I think Gunnersville during well, it's not the first time that no, that was Bass. That was at Gunnersville a couple years ago. But
I can give you a really good rundown of Gunnersville in April. I mean, it's going to be probably the most versatile time of the year that we could be there, as far as how guys are going to catch them. Like, you're going to see it probably get one shallow, somewhere between, mid range offshore and shallow. But, a guy could technically do pretty good out deep still in April, depending on how far along the fish are. But, man, I mean, it's the one time of the year that you're going to
Guess
see.
it's not wanting to let them back in, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you can see him, dominate on a wacky rig in 2 foot, or catch him out deep, in 20 foot that time of the year. But
right.
should be a lot of fish spawning too, I would think, when we're there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That'll be
Yeah,
interesting.
that should be towards the end of the spawn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh,
yeah.
so
Well,
now, how was Dylan? Was it with you growing up and in the swampy areas and having all the cypress and then going to the Highland Reservoir? Was it much of a change for you to go to like the TVA lakes where there is current driven? That I mean, the bass thrive on you catch them or not. If it's going to be how much current is going to be there. Was it much of
Petting a dog
a
over there.
challenge for you?
he's petting a dog. I'll answer the question.
Okay.
No, I mean, I've personally, for me, I mean, I feel like Gunnersville is. I mean, it is current driven, but there's definitely
Right,
certain sections of the Tennessee River, certain parts of it that are more current related than a lot. I mean,
right,
I don't know. We can get into the technicalities of it. I've had some of my best days on Gunnersville are in times of the year where it's super, super,
You want me
super
to get out of
low,
here and get back
low
on it?
flow. But I think he might be frozen up.
I can see it. He's moving. I can hear. Well, I can't hear him as loud as what he was.
Yeah. I don't know if he could hear us though. Hey Dylan,
That's what I'm
Can you
wondering.
hear?
could you hear us,
Yeah.
Dylan?
Yeah, I hear you. I can't hear anybody else.
Oh, you can't hear Colin or Jacob?
All right,
No, they're
hold on.
froze.
Oh, you guys are froze?
Oh, that's
Oh.
weird.
You want
On
me to get
mine, it
out of it
shows.
and get back on it?
Yeah, if you'll do that, and then
I can
we'll
only hear
put you right.
you.
Yeah, try to log back. Try to click off and log back in on the link. See if that fixes it.
Well, that makes sense why he wasn't answering the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Wait, wait. We might be.
You good now?
Can you hear us now?
Well, I'm. I hear you, but
You
you're
got
still
us?
not moving.
Y-
I hear you, but you're still froze.
Yeah, I think you
Weird.
guys are frozen. Why don't you try to go ahead and click out, Dylan, and then see if you can log
Hold up,
back in.
hold
Log
up. I
back in
think
on the
I
right.
may. I pulled it up on the. I think it may be working now. Let me see here. All right. I definitely see y'all moving around now. I mean, thought I was crazy. I thought it was just me and you on here. I was waiting on them to get back on.
Oh man, it's all
Did you
good.
hear me? I talked for 10 minutes. Did you hear me answer the question?
Yeah, we heard everything. Yeah.
Yeah, we heard.
Oh,
Yeah. And then I asked you a
okay.
question, and then
I
you start to
answered it.
pet the dog, and then Jacob answered.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, what do you got? What was the question?
with you growing up and fishing like the swampy areas and all the cypress trees and stuff, and then
Yeah.
fishing, moving and going to the Highland Reservoir, was it much of a change for you to go to like the TVA lakes that are mainly current driven?
No, very, very different. Because I don't have anything like that in Arkansas. I didn't. When I got on tour, in my head, you think you're big and bad and you can beat everybody, but man, like I wish looking back, it was just a crash course. I wish I would have had a couple years as a co-angler on tour and travel the
Yeah,
country more. I fished in Texas and Alabama and Missouri as a co-angler, here and there. I fished as a co-angler for 5 years or 7 years or something before. You learn so much traveling with people and going but to answer your question, yes, TVA big. My first tournament was on Lake Gunnersville, TVA. And then I remember, the first time you see big water, first time you see, a Lake Erie or Lake Ontario, or uh, I remember going to Okeechobee the first time and being so very overwhelmed because it all looks the same and it is a
yeah,
And it
giant place,
and it all looks good
and
too everywhere you go. It
and
looks
it
like there's a ten
all
pounder
looks
run.
good, man. It
Looks like there's
all looks good.
looks like there's a 10 pounder around every corner in Okeechobee, but
Yeah,
there's not.
that was one of the most overwhelming places, really. Uh, just because I mean, you really don't know where you can run and where you can't run, and and then
Yeah,
like the waves up north. The first time you do that, man, that's a whole nother world.
yeah,
Um, it just is. But I mean, once you've traveled for a year or two and you've seen it all, you've probably been somewhere very similar if you haven't been to that same place. And
yeah,
I personally
right.
love going to brand new places way more than going back to somewhere I've
yeah,
been 10 times.
yeah.
Uh,
Now, is
but
there a lake that y'all wish that y'all would go and fish?
yeah, man, yeah. How about the fact that I haven't made a professional cast in 8 years in Arkansas since my rookie year? Like any of them. I don't
Yeah,
care where we go. I have no idea. Washita, Dardanelle, any of them. But I remember places
yeah,
like we went to Lake Lanier. Jacob, were you on tour when we went to Lake Lanier?
Mm-mm.
Man, phenomenal fishery,
Mm.
yeah,
phenomenal fishery. And like I have no idea why we didn't go back. I remember Bradley Hallman had 25 pounds of spotted bass the first day.
yeah.
Wow.
Like that place was
That's
incredible.
and
Like
that.
why have we
I
not went
mean,
back?
yeah, and because it was that was a couple years ago when y'all went to Lanier, wasn't it?
It it was at least 4 years ago.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was gonna
remember.
say four or
Maybe more than
five
that.
years, something like that.
Yeah.
And but I mean, Lanier. I just actually went past Lanier here today, coming back from uh, with my job delivering Little Debbie's, and I mean, in that lake, if you if you want to go catch a big old stud spot, that's the lake to go to.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of it's about the towns paying for uh,
Right, right.
the tournament to be there, and that is maybe the ultimately the most important thing. But
yeah,
there's definitely most of the places that I don't know why we don't go back to that we really like the first time. Like Cumberland, that's another really good one. I really enjoyed Cumberland. It's big and expensive, and you can spread out, and fishing's really good. And I mean, we went to it like 2 years in a row, and ain't been back since. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
that's been a long time.
yeah. Yeah. Now we're talking about like Gunnersville a little bit ago, and Gunnersville being your one of your home lakes, Jacob. But uh, from a mindset point of view, going even not even talking about Gunnersville, but even a regular season event, if you happen to actually go to what you would consider home lake that you spend a lot of time on, you know, what's your mindset going into a home body of water? You always hear people talk about the worst thing you could do is start fishing from memory. You know, thinking about places you were 3 years prior and spending too much time just focusing on memory. Going into a home body of water, and we're just on Dylan. You're talking about you really haven't fished much of your what you would call home lakes, but if you were also to do that, would you go into the event and basically delete everything you have in your electronics off of your home body's water and start from scratch, or would you, in the back of your mind, have ideas and areas you might want to try that you fished before that you have memory of, or would you at least scratch everything that you know that you've known in the past and just start from scratch? Or what do you think's easier if you're going into a home body water like Gunnersville for you next year, Jacob?
Um, yeah, and there's no way I would go out there with none of my stuff that I've got. I mean, I think that information like preconceived information or like history or whatever, like let's just say history, I think it could be the worst thing that you could have happen to you on the water, but it also could be the best. Like,
Right,
I mean, I attribute all of my success on Gunnersville in the last 4 years to stuff that I've learned over the last six. You know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Like
Right.
last year when I finished second to Wheeler over on Gunnersville, like I caught fish from Goose Pond to Honeycomb on waypoints that I've had for 2 to 4 years, and some of
right.
them from this year or from last year, but most of that stuff was stuff that I had from 3, 4 years ago. So and that's obviously during a time of the year where they get out deep, and there's certain
Yeah.
types of fisheries, where that's like definitely important to keep in mind where those fish go, where they like to group up, because they use the same, a lot of the times they'll use the same stuff year after year after year. Obviously, like grass fisheries, like Gunnersville is a grass fishery, but there's a lot of stuff that doesn't change, the shell bars and all that good stuff. But um, and there's so many different types of fisheries that question is hard to have like a solid answer for it. For Gunnersville in particular, I would say, absolutely not. I would never get rid of all of my history that I
Right,
have. And for me, in practice, I'm going to check as much of it as I possibly can,
right, right.
from one end to the
Yeah.
other. I'm going to
Yeah,
just go and just try stuff, that I try to eliminate all that back of my mind stuff. So I'm not thinking constantly during the tournament, what
yeah,
about this? What about that?
yeah,
That
Right.
way, in practice, maybe I can get all that out there and then in the tournament, narrow it down. But then again, there's places where you are going to shine if you just don't even think about what you've done in the past.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you can't really answer that one way or
yeah,
the other, I don't
yeah,
think.
I think Jacob nailed it. Like in a summer or a winter situation, that a local history really plays way more than a spring or fall
right,
situation. And that
right,
point in time,
Right.
you really just got to fish conditions. Now, be you may figure out some sort of pattern or get bit doing something, and you may know where a lot more of that kind of thing is, and you could find that a lot quicker because you've spent so much time on a body of water. But so much of that plays in the time of year. It could be, it needs to be stable to have any kind of advantage. You could get a flood, the week before, and all that's just out the window. It doesn't matter if you've
yeah,
been there or not. It's the
yeah,
same for
mhm,
everybody. Fish what's
Yeah.
going on. That's what I tell people all the time. The number one rule, period, to be successful in fishing is fish what's going on that day. Like it doesn't matter what happened
Yeah.
yesterday, last year, how many times you've been there, the 10 pounder you caught in 1987. It doesn't matter. Like fish what's going on that day.
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, we got a question from Mark. It says, I have a 12-year-old son that has been into fishing, but he's wanting to be able to start fishing more competitive. What is the biggest thing that y'all have learned that you could tell a kid?
Is he
Be,
wondering? Is he
Go ahead.
wondering how he's gonna? I mean, I'll just,
he's just wanting like what is like the biggest, I guess, like the Mark. If you can clarify that,
I mean,
but
because
I think he's just trying to say because he's trying to. I guess what how I took it was that he's trying to. Uh, what's the biggest or best information that you could give a kid
Best
that's
advice.
trying to best advice to be able to tell a kid as he's getting started into wanting to compete tournaments.
I know what I would say, and it's pretty short and sweet, and it's sort of what I tell a lot of younger, kids and younger, high schoolers or middle schoolers or anything like that. My biggest thing is I say just spend as much time as possible fishing, whether it's off the shore or out of a boat or kayak. I don't really care what it is. I don't even care if you've got an hour at the end of the evening, after you get off school. Just try to keep your line in the water, learning. That's the best way you're going to get better. That's the best way you're going to be able to like get the skills that it takes to compete at a high level. Is just to get as good as you can with a rod and reel in your hand. So at that age, I'd say focus on fishing more than anything. As far as like, I don't know if this was part of the question or not, but I'll just briefly say it and I'll let Dylan answer it. But, if you're looking for like places to fish at that age, like there should be local clubs in your area. You can always look like online, like Google, like, whatever city it is, like bass fishing clubs. Like, I don't know if that's part of the question or not, but I'll just
Right.
say that that's a good way to do it. Or high school, if not every school around the country has a bass fishing team, but a lot of them do, especially this, now in day and age, there's more high school teams around the country than there has been, and they keep popping up over and over again all over the place. And that's a great place to, start. But
Yeah.
club level events are always good. They're really family oriented usually, and that's
Yeah.
it's a nice place to
Yeah.
start.
And I think
I
though,
was
kind
actually
of sorry, Jacob or Dylan,
go ahead.
but I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but that Bill Dance deal that he does, the big bass splash deal, I think that he's old enough now that he can fish in it at 12 years old too.
Yeah,
So if that's something else that because it travels all around the southeast, so it depends on where you're at, Mark.
yeah,
But that may be something also that you can look into.
yeah,
But I was going to say the same exact thing. If you look at anyone who is great at any sport, they spend a lot of time doing it.
Yeah,
Anything. I had a pond behind my house that was probably a quarter an acre, and man, every single day I would be out there. Just like Jacob said, I don't care if it was an hour or 30 minutes or whatever, and just spending that time out there, like you see weather changes. You see when fronts come in, they might
yeah,
bite better. You see when days when they're like post front, they might not bite worth a dang. And you learn. You learn how to cast, and you learn what baits work better. And quick little funny story on that. I spent every day out there, and the most bass I ever caught in one day was three bass ever. But I was still like addicted to going to this pond. And one day the pond started leaking. We had to drain it and redo it. There was three bass in that pond. Period. And but I was so obsessed with catching those three little bass. And and it's just you just have to love it. And he sounds like that little kid does. And
yeah,
something else, get in the boat or get this fish with as many people as you can because you always learn something every single time.
Yeah,
Like as far as being a co-angler, to me that was one of the number one things that helped me grow as an angler. He can't do a lot of that until he's turned 16, but he definitely can do exactly what Jacob said, getting some club stuff and or get
yeah,
involved in his school if his school has fishing teams and. But exactly what he said. Just spend time out there learning because you learn every single time.
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, it all comes back around to confidence, and confidence can be built anywhere. Like I mean, even still at the level that Dylan and I compete at, like I'll come home for a week or something in between events, and man, I'll go throw a spinnerbait down the bank at a pond for an hour and catch like 4 or 5 on the spinnerbait and be like, man, that's feel a little bit of confidence on the spinnerbait, and like the next
Right.
one pick it
Yeah.
up. I don't care if it's at that pond or at a lake. I got bit, so I kind of got a vibe for, hey, that speed was what they wanted in that pond. Granted, it may have no relevancy to the lake that I'm on, but for me, I got some bites. I built some confidence on something. Ponds are always a great place to start because
Yeah.
those fish are usually less pressured. It's a great place to pick up some baits maybe you don't have as much experience with, like I was saying, and build some confidence with it. That's what I did when I was growing up. Like I grew up in Southern Oregon where there was not very many big bodies of water, so I did a lot of bank fishing, a lot of small lake fishing, and so I was forced to fish, small bodies of water, from the shore a lot of times, and you learn new techniques in order to make fish bite in the same places that you've been catching them on other stuff, and so yeah. Anyway, just man, fish as much as you can. That's what I've
Yeah.
always done. That's what
Yeah.
I still do. That that's how I stay. Keep my edge, or at least try to.
Yeah, and I'll
Yeah.
add one thing to that also, for that question that he asked. When you do go, don't just go fish to fish. Go, make sure you make mental notes of everything that you do during the day, because you're not going to learn anything if you don't think about what you're doing at the time you're doing it. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had a co-angler on the back of my boat that caught a fish, dropped it in the live well, and you asked them 5 minutes later how that fish eat it. How fast were you reeling it? What kind of reed head did he catch it off of? And they can't answer you because they don't think about it. I'm like, I'm like, think about what you're doing. You want to remember everything that you do through the course of the day, whether it take mental notes or with a notepad and write it all down, because that's going to help you in the long run throughout, the whole year, and learning what that fish done, how he ate it, and it's all about thinking about what you're doing. Also, just don't go fish to fish. You got to think about what you're doing at the time too.
I'll make one more too. Even if he can't get to a body of water, you can practice in your yard casting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did it
Yeah.
hours, like with a coffee cup or a 5 gallon. And it's so funny the things that stick with you throughout your life. When I was probably dead on 12 years old, I went to a Bass University, and Denny Brower was there, and he told me, he said, learn to be accurate, learn to cast accurately. He's like, if you take a black and blue jig and you put it on a 4 pounder's nose, there's a good chance he's going to bite it. He has to
Yeah.
make a decision. But if you miss that fish by 6 or 8 foot, he's not going to bite it. And so like that really stuck with me. And man, I like that's really important, at any level, but to be able to compete, um, you just being efficient and wasting, like, don't waste time. Like I guide a lot. I fish for a lot of people with very little fishing experience, and you know, and and they may make a cast and like, oh, did you see that cast? That was a great cast. And like, man, in my head, I'm thinking like at a level like on the Bass Pro Tour level or Elite Series or whatever. Like, man, them guys do that every cast for
That's a
eight
yeah.
hours. Like,
Yeah.
that's a
That's a
big
routine.
difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
Routine,
Now,
very routine.
yeah.
And the only way you do that
Because
is
how
practice.
right? Because how important is it? And I think you kind of hit it on the head with it, Dylan. Is like, let's say you've got a dock and it's you might have 2 feet to where you can skip up underneath it, and but it's got the little pylons and stuff like that. But to get back up underneath it, I mean farther back. So how far or how important is it to be able to go and get that bait even farther back into that dock, or even on the into some thick brush that's on a downfall and stuff, to where a lot of people just don't think, oh, I'm going to get hung up, or I'm going to backlash or something like that. So how is that kind of like what you was talking about? Is, I mean, just
Yeah,
that routine casting and stuff like that, to
that
be able to make that cast that that 90% of the people are not throwing a bait back up in.
that and accuracy and distance as well, man. Like I go back to guiding. it may be the best dock bite in the world. It may be a 4 pounder under every single walkway on the lake, but if you can't cast it in there, like, why are we even doing this? Like, there's
Right.
just you need to do that. And one more thing to touch on too, like, for a tip for a 12-year-old, don't get so caught up in all the different colors and sizes and weights. And I mean, there's infinite amount of things that could be overwhelming. Like, back to the Denny Broward thing. Throw a black and blue jig on his nose. There's a good chance he's going to bite it. That bass is not down there saying, "Oh, I only bite ones that are black and red or with green
Yeah.
flake." He ain't doing that. Put it on his nose, make him make a decision, and don't get so caught up. Just throw natural things. Dark colors or very natural colors, or maybe something like a white, like looks like a fish, and go with that and get started with that.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, we've had you on an hour, and and the fat boy's getting hungry, and it's my birthday, so I'm going to go get something. I'm just going to chow down.
It's
But
your birthday.
Yeah.
yeah,
His,
today's my birthday. Yeah,
Happy birthday.
thank you. So
think you're
we've
catching up with
got.
me, Colin.
I won't ever catch up with you, oh man. But uh, we've got a question that we ask every guest every time or every week, and so Norman asked this question to him, and we'll let that be the last question of the night.
That'll work, guys. And you guys can take it one at a time. I don't care who answers this one first. But anyway, and before we get into that question, all of our viewers just want to thank everybody again. Thank Jacob and Dylan for spending time with us today,
Yeah.
talking about their season, talking about their career, and make sure you catch these guys and watch them coming up October 24th through the 29th in the next Team Series event
Yeah.
with the Patriot Cup, and wish them guys well. But anyway, we are live.
Hold up, Norman. Hold up,
Yeah,
Norman.
what's that? Go ahead.
Before I forget, um, if these, because right now we've got, it looks like 900 people are on right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if they're wanting to, like, social media wise, be able to kind of keep in contact with you and watch what you're doing throughout the year, can you plug your social media or your websites or anything like that?
Mine's just my name, Jacob Wall, Jacob Wall Fishing,
Okay.
across all platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah. And so what we'll do, we'll put links down in the description for with both of theirs. And so, Dylan, what is yours?
Same. Dylan Hayes Fishing across everything. HAYS.
Okay. All right.
Make
All
sure you
right.
type it in
Go.
right.
Right.
So just our
Now it's
names
all
with
yours.
fishing. Our names with fishing
Yeah.
on both.
Yeah.
That's it. Super easy.
So
Awesome. But anyway, catch us live every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure to catch next week's show. We have legendary Shaw Grisby going to be joining the show next week. And make sure to check out our website, www.decktopodcast.com. Very simple. We have our guest lineup typically 2 months in advance. In a couple of days, we're actually going to be having our November calendar up and ready on our website. But anyway, guys, if you were to have one person to be able to fish with for the day, and this person could be passed away or still with us, who would that person be that you would want to fish with for the day in your boat, and why would you want to fish with them?
Go ahead.
Man, I don't know. I've got my initial thought. I mean, it's hard to choose just one, but
Yeah.
man, I mean, I have to say my dad probably. I mean, my dad's still alive, but I cherish fishing with my dad every chance that I get. He's the one that got me into bass. Well, not really bass fishing, but fishing. I
Yeah.
would never have really had any interest in fishing at all if it weren't for my dad. Um, so I mean, it's a no-brainer for me. I definitely want to spend the day with him. But one person that another person I know that you said one, but Aaron Martins is somebody that I looked up to as a
Awesome.
competitor and as an individual, and I'd love to, if I could, somehow spend a day on the water with Aaron.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
yeah.
Excuse me. I got to get this tear out of my eye from Jacob. That was sweet. The I'm right on him with that. Daddy O, yeah, he's always welcome. The if I gotta pick one, man, I want somebody. I've always wanted to spend some time with Ricky Clunt because the way he thinks, he thinks differently than so many people, and
Yeah,
I've heard so many stories. I think it'd be really cool to be in a boat with him for 8 hours and just watch. That's all. I don't even care if I want
yeah,
to fish. I just want to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would
yeah.
be
I mean,
cool.
he's like 80 years old and still kicking butt, you know,
Yeah.
Still kicking
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, both of those guys, you cannot. I mean, just like what you said, Dylan, just get in the boat with them. You don't even have to cast or just get in the boat with them, and you could learn. There ain't no telling what you could learn. And I mean, oh, Aaron, he that was sad to deal with him, but I mean, he was a phenomenal fisherman in his own rights, and just to be able to share a boat with him would have been phenomenal too.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely, definitely. Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks again. Go check out their social medias, and we will see you next week with Shaw Grisby. And I hope that y'all have a blessed day. And what is I I couldn't see what the name of it was on there, but uh, let's see the sway
Sway.
minnow.
Sway Meadow.
So, but uh, but guys, go and check out their social medias. Go follow them, and again, go tune into the team events that they're going to be. Hopefully, they're going to be crushing it out there
Hopefully, we'll
in
be able to see him
Texas.
hoist that Patriot Cup at the end of on the 29th.
That'd be nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Hopefully, we
but
see
guys,
some.
thank you again.
Hopefully, we see some giant bass caught since we're going to be in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that'd be nice.
Yeah.
So, thank you again for coming on, and we'll hopefully we'll see you in Birmingham and here in April. But guys, I hope you have a blessed day, and we'll see you out on the water, guys.
Live the passion, guys.
Thank y'all.
See you guys. Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank y'all.